Penny from Heaven by Jennifer L. Holm. Chapter 8, Nonnie's Underwear. It's a hot July day, but it's nice and cool in Nonnie's basement. Frankie and me are helping with the laundry. I feed the wet clothes through the wringer, like Mimi taught me. The clothes get squeezed through the rollers, and the water is wrung out of them. Mimi always says to be careful, because you can get your fingers pulled in the wringer if you're not paying close attention. Nonnie's upstairs, arguing with Aunt Gina. Mother Felucci, Aunt Gina says, her voice loud. I counted 3 eggs this morning. I would appreciate it if you'd at least ask me before taking things from my refrigerator. Nonnie shouts back in Italian, and Aunt Gina yells, You know very well how to speak English. I don't know how Uncle Polly stands it. They're always at each other, Frankie says, shaking his head. Above us, a dish goes flying, and a pair of Aunt Gina-like heels clip-clops out the front door. Sounds like Nonnie won, Frankie says with a small smile. I love Nonnie. She's a tough old lady. Remember the kite? I ask. Frankie smirks. Bobby's lucky he still has both hands. One time when we were little, we were playing outside in the front of Nonnie's with a brand new kite that the uncles gave us. This older neighborhood bully named Bobby Rocco came along and tried to take the kite from Frankie. But Frankie, being Frankie, wouldn't let that kite go, even though Bobby Rocco was twice as big as him. They started tussling, and Bobby just smacked Frankie like he was a fly, and poor Frankie fell on the ground. Well, Nonnie was watching from the front window, and when she saw this, she grabbed up a meat cleaver and came running out, waving it at Bobby. She said that if he ever smacked Frankie again, he wouldn't have anything to smack with. She'd chop off both his hands herself. He hasn't bothered Frankie since. So what do you think you're getting for your birthday? Frankie asks. Every year, the uncles get me a big gift. Last year, we went to the circus and then for a lobster dinner afterward. The year before that, I got a fancy dollhouse. Frankie gets presents from the uncles on his birthday too, but not as big as mine. The uncles are always trying to make up for my father being dead. I don't know, I say, although I've been dropping hints about a new bicycle to replace the one Pop ran over. Do you think Uncle Dom would teach me how to drive? Frankie asks. I figure of all the uncles, I have the best chance with him. What he means is, Uncle Dominic is strange and does things nobody else does, like lives in his car when there's a perfectly good bedroom in the house. Why do you want to drive? So I can get a real job. You know, make good money, he says. Frankie, I say, you're too young. Hey, Miss Smarty Pants, I can drive if I want. Joey Fantone is driving already and he's 14, Frankie says. Joey Fantone is almost 6 feet tall. The coach in the basketball team started talking to him when he was in elementary school. But he looks like he's 18, I say, and he's not supposed to be driving. You're saying I don't look old enough to drive? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I look at him more closely. What's this all about anyhow? Frankie looks down. Pop lost his job again. Uncle Angelo is always losing his job. It probably doesn't help that he likes to drink whiskey a lot. The other uncles used to give him money and help him out with work, get him jobs and everything. But then there was a big fight, and now Uncle Angelo says he doesn't want nobody's handouts. But I know that Nonnie and all the aunts sneak Aunt Teresa money, and Aunt Fulvia lets her get anything she wants from the store for free. When we came home yesterday afternoon, he was on the couch. He said they just fired him for no reason at all. Oh, Frankie, I say, and as soon as the words leave my mouth, Frankie's face darkens. If there's one thing Frankie can't stand, it's pity. We work in silence for a little while, and then I say, maybe you should ask Uncle Dominic. You never know. You're just saying that, he says. Yeah, I am, I say, and laugh, and he cracks a smile, and I know we're okay again. Frankie holds up a slinky-looking red satin slip. Must be Aunt Gina's, he says. Sure isn't Nonnie's, I say. Hey, do you think Nonnie has black underwear? Frankie asks. I don't know, I say and shrug. Maybe. Everything else is black. Ain't you curious? Not really. Come on, she wears black all the time, even in the summer, Frankie says. It's a tradition, you know. Morning clothes, because of my father, Grandpa too, I guess. Have I got an idea, he says, a note of excitement in his voice. We case her room. Why don't you just ask her, I say. Nah, let's spy on her, he says. Frankie. Well, he demands, a bulldog expression on his face. You gonna help or what? Maybe because I want to know too, or maybe because Frankie is my best friend, my cousin, and I'd do just about anything to make him stop thinking about his father will never be any good. I say what he wants to hear. I say, sure. Nani gives us lunch in the dining room. It's ricotta ball soup, which is really good. Nani looks pleased when Frankie and me ask for seconds. There's nothing she likes better than feeding people. The telephone rings. Since Aunt Gina's out, Nani picks it up and listens for a minute and then says, Nobody home. Goodbye. Frankie shakes his head. Nani always does this if the person on the other end doesn't speak Italian. She's scared to talk on the phone. After lunch, Nani goes upstairs. She takes her bath in the afternoon and then a nap, and Frankie figures this is the perfect time to look in her room. We pretend to play cards, but when we hear the water start running, Frankie nods to me. Go, he whispers. I'm going, I say. I creep upstairs, pausing outside the bathroom to make sure that Nani's in there. I can hear her humming a soft song that sounds sort of familiar, like something you would sing to a baby. I hurry down the hall to her bedroom. I feel like I'm breaking the law by going in there. It's just not something you do. The room is filled with large pieces of heavy, dark furniture, and there's a crucifix hanging over the bed. In the corner is a washstand with a pitcher that I know she brought over from Italy, the only thing that survived the trip. The pitcher has been cracked and glued back together, and I can't help but think it reminds me of Nani, small but tough, enough to leave a whole world behind. There's a big 4-drawer dresser, and I open the top drawer, the drawer where most people keep their socks. And sure enough, there are rolled up balls of black stockings and neat stacks of Blast-Lake handkerchiefs. The next drawer down has black sweaters and blouses, but no underwear. The next one down has men's clothes, tidy piles of trousers and button-up shirts with carefully mended collars. With a start, I realized that they must have belonged to my grandfather. I don't know very much about Grandpa, except that he played the mandolin. He died before I was born. Frankie says he heard Grandpa had some sort of fit and just killed over. I wonder how long Nani's had his clothes in here, and then I wonder how come it's always Frankie who's coming up with these schemes and always me who's doing them. Finally, I open the bottom drawer, and lying right on top is something that's black and silky, and I think I've hit pay dirt. Only it's just a silk kerchief, not underwear, but when I move it, I find something else. It's a photograph of Nani holding a fat, round, pudgy baby dressed in a white gown on her lap. I turn over the photograph and see that someone's written Alfredo. It's my father. They must have still been in Italy. They didn't come over until my father was 2, and the other kids were born here. Nani is young in the photograph. Her hair hasn't turned white yet, and her skin is smooth like porcelain. The photographer has caught the exact moment when she's looking down at the baby and not at the camera, and the expression on her face is one of such happiness, such joy, that I just stare at it. She looks like the happiest mother in the whole world. Underneath the photograph is a black photo album, and I open it. It's filled with newspaper clippings, articles written by my father. It looks like Nani kept everything he ever wrote. Most of the articles are in English, but a few are in Italian. I start reading the articles, and it's like he's in the room with me. I can hear his voice so clearly in my head. This looks to be a close election with... The bathroom door opens and closes, and there's a soft pad of footsteps making their way down the hall. I put the album back and shut the drawer just in time. Nani opens the door wearing her bathrobe, which is naturally black. Penny, she says, surprised. Hi, Nani, I say. I'm expecting her to yell at me for being in her room, but instead, she just closes the door and walks over to her dressing table. She sits down on the little stool and undoes the single tortoiseshell comb and then hands me her brush. I used to brush her hair when I was a little girl. The brush is heavy with a thick wooden handle that fits my hand and bristles that are bare in places. I carefully brush out her hair. It's long, almost all the way down her back. After her hair is smooth and free of tangles, I twist it into one thick braid, tying it at the end with a piece of black ribbon she hands me. There, I say, you look real good, Nani. Nani takes off her bathrobe, and there it is, a long white slip, an old-fashioned cotton one with handmade lace at the hem. I look in her eyes, and I suddenly know why she wears black. It's her shield, her armor in a country where she can't speak the language, where she's still afraid after all these years to talk on the phone or answer the door, because she might not understand what someone's saying. It's her way of looking fierce, of hiding the fact that she's old and tired and homesick. Tesoro mia, she says, her voice weary. I help her into bed and tuck the sheet high around her neck. She's asleep before I even leave the room. Frankie's waiting for me when I come downstairs. Well, he asks. You're right, I lie. Black. He slaps his palm on his leg. I knew it. But I know that it doesn't really matter. Black, white, or purple underwear. She's still my Nani. End of chapter 8.